Hi, I'm Vivien Diniz with the Investing News Network. Joining me today is Ross Orr, CEO of BacTech Environmental. BacTech is an environmental technology company that focuses on remediation of mine tailings left over from abandoned mines. BacTech trades on the Canadian National Stock Exchange under the symbol BAC. Ross, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Ross, to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about the mine remediation process?
Historically, they've done what they call cap and treat, which is putting a clay cap on top of the tailings to choke off any oxygen that would lead to sulfides oxidizing and creating acid mine drainage. We've always said that's a Band-Aid. It's a short-term fix for 10 or 15 years. We want to cure the patient, so we want to go in and take the sulfides out, the things that cause the problems. And unfortunately, in the problem causers also have the metal attached with them, so that's how we pay ourselves.
It seems like environmental concerns are a very hot topic. What kind of measures then are being taken to extract these toxins from mineral exploration?
Well, it's interesting because before the price of gold and copper moved up to where it is now, these were liabilities. Mining companies didn't talk about them because they were a cost center as opposed to a profit center. What we're finding now is that these things are becoming assets because there is value in them. And it makes it a lot more difficult for us to actually try to do what we want to do because, well, the greed factor is alive and well. The mining company says, hey, I just realized I've got 150,000 ounces of gold that I didn't have before. So it's our job to try and negotiate deals with them, but more importantly, the governments are the ones who end up, or the taxpayer are the ones who end up owning the problem. And that's not right. I mean,
yeah.
why are we paying for something that happened 50, 70 years ago? So governments are very keen to get us to come in and look at these projects like in Manitoba.
That's one of where your project is, the Snow Lake project in Manitoba. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process involved in remediating this project?
It's actually a concentrate. It's 300,000 tons of a concentrate that was produced in the mid-50s, full of arsenic. And even then they couldn't burn it, so they just put it off to the side and said, you know what, we'll get to it sooner or later. 60 years later, we approached Manitoba and said, you've got a big problem. You've got acid and arsenic leaching out of this pile. So let us build the plant at our expense, but I want the gold. And that was a deal that was signed very quickly. And then the phone started ringing off the hook from Peru and Bolivia and Chile. Governments, though, not corporations.
Despite a company's best efforts, it seems that you're not always getting 100% of your asset when you are mining. So you can say that tailings are actually a profitable waste?
Well, I can say that nowadays they do a much better job of getting the majority of the sulfides. They're still there. But the stuff that was done 50 to 100 years ago, when the technology was for making a concentrate was not as good as today, there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value in places like Eastern Europe where the Russian technology was used to produce copper and gold at any cost. Just get it through the system. So again, when you have sulfides, though, you eventually have problems with acid leaching.
And you use a process called biological mining. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is?
It's called bioleaching, and it's not a new technology. There's 2 of us in the world that do it. A little company called Goldfields of South Africa has built about 20 of them. We've built 3. But they were all licensing deals. So what effectively happens is the bacteria digest the sulfides, and when they do that, they break up the matrix. So things like arsenic and iron go into solution, and the precious metals report to the residue at the bottom because it doesn't dissolve with sulfuric acid. So at the end of the process, we have a solid liquid separation, and the nasties go one way, and we precipitate out a ferric arsenate, which is a benign product. And the gold and silver go for conventional recovery.
So you're still able to render the toxins and all the
Absolutely. Yeah, we make a ferric arsenate, which is a US EPA approved landfillable material, but we'd never be able to landfill it. We wouldn't try anyways.
So do you see this as being something that other companies would take hold of in terms of the remediation process for their tailings?
Hopefully with us. But yeah, I think for 2 reasons. One is the environmental problem, and the second is the profit or the metal that can be produced by the process. You can't make a high enough grade concentrate to ship to a smelter from tailings because it just isn't that much metal there. But bioleaching is a very inexpensive way to process it. The capital costs are a fraction of, say, pressure oxidation. And it's clean. It's a great project. I mean, it's a great technology. It really is.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that information with me, Ross.
My pleasure.